and off of Taxman from 1997. The West Michigan Bluegrass Music Association is a non-profit organization established in 1995 for the promotion and preservation of traditional acoustic bluegrass music. Their purpose and activities include soliciting memberships, sponsoring festivals and concerts, and publishing an informational newsletter. More information is available at wmbma.org. Next up is Electric Poetry with Olive. I'll be back after the poetry is finished. You've been listening to Devon Show only here at 88.1 FM WICE.
You were that candy I couldn't have, the cookie jar my hand got caught in, the no trespassing sign on the fence for which I had no defense. I'm a man, but I was weak. You were where my curiosity peaked, why the blood rushed to my cheeks, because my nervousness had reached new levels. But then something changed. There was a new chapter on a fresh page. With time I paid the wage while I was counting the days, dreaming of the ways I could have you, thinking of the words to say, praying I could have you in my arms again one day, someday, sooner than later, way before never. I knew it was possible because I'm just too damn clever to let you simply slip by. It was way too late to give up because you had already caught my eye and stole all of my attention. I had worked hard on our connection through my affection until it was impossible for you to ignore. 3 pages into that chapter I had you in my arms once more. 10 pages later, we were happier than ever. We had so many ups that we never noticed the downs. I held so much love for you, it felt like I had put on some pounds. I forgot how to frown, my cheeks hurt from the smiling. Your ears hurt from the rhyming. It began to feel like we had perfect timing. Our great memories began multiplying. The things that held us back started dividing and disappearing. You opened your heart, and as a result, you could finally hear me. We blasted through the pages writing our fairy tale. We encountered some fire-breathing dragons, which we slayed like the best of them and scared off the rest of them. You bit the apple from the witch, so I avenged you with my sword and I stabbed that bitch. Now I kiss you every morning like Sleeping Beauty. I spend the nights getting lost in your hair like Rapunzel's. Watching you dance is like watching Cinderella at the ball. I'm hoping you lose your glass slipper if you fall, so I can pick it up and chase after you in the moonlight before it hits midnight. And if that spell changes you back, I realize everything's alright, cause you're still as perfect as Snow White. I've got my shining armor and to be your knight. You were my princess, and I'm trying to figure out what being your prince means, so that one day you could be my queen and I could be your king, and we can have a kingdom and get lost in each other's freedom. We can show all of our fears that we don't need them. We could drown out tears with laughter while living happily ever after.
Mitch Burns here on Electric Poetry. It's 88.1 FM WICE Poetry every Tuesday at 10:15 p.m. And thanks for coming in, Mitch.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
That was a longer piece than I think I've heard you do before.
Yeah, that was the first one I memorized, and I've probably only proved that I memorized it like once or twice. So.
No, nice job.
Yeah,
nice job. How long have you been writing poetry?
I've been writing since I was like 12, 13, but I just started reading it not till like 8 months ago, like out loud to other people.
Okay.
Mostly just gifts for girlfriends.
All right. You do some funny pieces too, don't you?
Yeah, I try to. Sometimes they laugh.
And you have started a new poetry night in town at the Bob, at the Monkey Bar. Tuesdays, is it every other week now?
Yeah, now we are every other week, so we are in our second time for being every other week, and kind of in celebration of that, we've done 2 shows. This will be the second show of no ticket price, so it's free to get in, 18 and up.
Fantastic. So tonight, actually, at the Monkey Bar, and then not next week, but the week after, and then every other week. Usually, there's a cover.
Yeah, usually it's $5.
But this week, free, and it goes until 11 o'clock.
Right.
So there's still some time to get down there. How did you decide to step up and get that started?
Basically, it came from being a fan of Azizi. I just kind of stumbled into the show that he does there, Hookah Lounge on Wednesday nights. I was walking by and heard what it sounded like poetry, and coming from a small town, I'd never heard anybody read poetry. So I just kind of stuck my ear to the window and realized that's what it was, and went inside and heard Azizi, and I was just an instant fan of his and of spoken word. So I never really thought of poetry that way. So I work at the Bob, and a little bit of time had passed and became better friends with Azizi, and there was talks about maybe trying to find a bigger venue. So I pitched the idea to the GM there, and he loved it, and we actually started the show up in Dr. Grin's.
Mm-hmm.
So opening night, we sold out at 188 tickets.
Fantastic.
And then we just saw the Monkey Bar as a better fit. You know, I know you've been there and you see the vibe that's down there, and it's just, I mean, if that's not a place for poetry, I'm not sure what is. So.
Right, yeah. It's dark and it lends to snaps.
Right, but we definitely wanted to keep the show separate from the other ones in town, so we installed like the idea of having the DJ, which our house DJ is K2 Rock. He's there every single week, so we have music in between readers before and after the show. So we thought that put like a nice spin on things and kind of separated it, and we tried to get him act as a bit of a co-host, that kind of thing. So
sure, it's a little classier,
right.
I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it feels like a night out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we're definitely trying to get like the date night feel. You know, it's all lit by candles and music that everybody knows, and then some love poems, some hate poems, a little bit of everything in between. But
yeah, lots of great poetry happening in town, and it's great to have two interesting spoken slam style kind of scenes going at the same time. That's fantastic.
And I think something needs to be said about the fact that Azizi hosts both of those.
Sure.
There are other shows in town, but I haven't been to them, haven't really heard anything about them, and when you go to anything that Azizi's involved in, it's the most diverse group of people you're going to find anywhere in the city, and that just goes to show with his character and how, he's the same person in every room he walks into.
Yeah.
So I noticed that right away and just really wanted to work with him, and it's just been a blessing ever since.
Very cool. Let's hear some more poetry from Mitch Burns.
The ink from my pen drips drops of knowledge. Forming words far from cursive, creating verses. I'm telling stories of non-fiction with perfect diction. I think back to poets like Poe when I listen to artists like Boyd who tells me that love hurts. I respond by saying, you're damn right love hurts. It's an addiction, a curse, written by fiction and free verse, spit by poets from the best to the worst until our lungs burst, until our tongues hurt, until sweat has soaked every fiber of our shirts, until our brain has pulled out every emotion from our soul, making it seem like it is less than what it is worth. And I stop. Then I think. Back to poets like Poe and artists like Kiedis, who tells me that we all have scar tissue, and not the kind left behind after surgery. It's the kind that reminds me that I miss you. A scar left from the last time I kissed you. That tainted tissue in my heart that stops any chance for regrowth. That scar in my eye because you made it twinkle the most. But before I lose my mind again, I pick back up my pen. I touch it to paper and it drips drops of knowledge. Scratching words in a sloppy form of cursive, not worrying about structure or form of verses. I'm telling stories of non-fiction with less than perfect diction. Taking inspiration from poets like Poe. Dissecting lyrics from artists like Cobain who thought death was better than fame. Making me understand there is more than just letters to my name, and that using drugs as a crutch doesn't really create any change. It just leaves me numb while the problems remain. So before I lose my life again, I pick back up my pen. I touch it to paper as it drips drops of lessons learned, and I use the knowledge gained to make sure everything I have is something I've earned. I'll remember at times that love hurts and it leaves scars when you get burned, but instead of using drugs to erase them, I'll use my pen to face them.
Real nice.
Thank you. I felt like with my intellect I could force us to reconnect, which would be like two candlesticks lighting one another without a flame. Like those two flameless candlesticks could burn together, one and the same, at the same pace, slowly, like there is no race, both with their backs to the world while standing face to face, hands embraced. See, I felt like with my intellect I could force us to reconnect, but what I failed to detect was a lack of respect. The misuse of fashion to create passion through lust instead of trust. So I get a glimpse of what's just below your back, having an impact on my instinct, forcing me to react in ways that were unhealthy. So my health was in need of someone or something, think. I just need someone to love me, but trust me, I can breathe without it. Without her, without them, they just want to say what I've said, repeat who I am, go where I've been. been while placing fresh tracks on my footprints. You can't keep a grip on me with your fingertips. See, I haven't seen it all, but I've seen enough. I've lived with the rough, roughly touching the rock, pressing it to powder my nose. Then from the crack came a rose that wrapped tightly around my toes so I could become one with the concrete, keeping me still so I can feel the beauty in my own heartbeat. It's that beat that keeps me alive, that beat that keeps me alive, that beat that keeps me alive. It's that beat that feels the lies, feels demise. It's that beat that spies in my brain so I can easily sense the difference between being famous and feeling fame. See, I felt like with my intellect that I could force us to reconnect, but we lost that sense of common. And commonly, I am willingly accepting the truth for what it is. I wasted my youth for what it is worth. I'm worth more than what I'm told. See, I'm telling you I could be what I want because I'm bold. I can make warm feel like cold and cold feel like comfort. It's comforting knowing that I see this for exactly what it's worth. And it's worth less than words because to me, we are not poetry.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're definitely growing as a poet.
Yeah, I feel like I've come a long way. So
Definitely.
When I first started writing, it was always just to read it for myself, and then when you come to these shows and hear these people, if it doesn't change the way you write, nothing will. You just get so inspired. And when I read my stuff, I don't just read it in my mind anymore. I find myself pacing in my house, reading it out loud, and then you memorize it, and you just feel the emotion that you wrote it with. So
Cool.
it's just, coming to the shows really changes things. So.
And the delivery style is important too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That's part of what I love about it.
Right, yeah, for sure.
What does it take to get the show going?
Basically, when there are tickets, I spend the whole show day answering phone calls and texts from people who didn't get the tickets the day before, and now they don't want to pay $10 because it's the day of the show.
Yeah.
So, I pretty much, I manage the show, and I manage a lot of things that Zizi does, so I make sure that nobody bugs him the day of the show.
All right.
So I get there early, and we get set up, and I get the DJ going, and then it's just a matter of setting up the list, so anybody can sign up, the day of the show, during the show, while the show's almost done, and if you come to me and tell me you want to perform, we'll squeeze you in. If not, we always try to have the lightning round at the end too, so that way, it's like 20 minutes where you just jump up, there's no introduction, you don't have to say anything, you just do your poem, sit down. So that works out really good for people that just aren't sure. And then you get there and you feel comfortable and you just jump up there and do it, and usually next time you're on the list because you know that the setting is right. So
Cool. Yeah, well, it's a great venue, and it's a great atmosphere, and a really great show, so thanks for doing it. And
yeah, I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. So every other Tuesday at the Monkey Bar. Mitch Burns, thanks for coming in.
All right, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
88.1 FM, WYCE.